Okay, hey everybody. We're back with another session with Voxras. This time we're going to actually do a couple of really interesting things, stuff that if you're coming from Roll20, you probably haven't been able to do anything like what we're about to show you. The first one's going to be scene automation. We're going to look at how to build things like automatic teleports, how to create interactable areas of the map or things on the map. We're going to just show you just a peek into what's available and then show you how to find out a whole bunch more that's available. And then if we have time, we're going to jump into some combat automation. We're going to show you kind of the most extreme version of combat automation to show you what's possible. And then we will hopefully finish up at that point. So how's that sound, guys?
Sounds great. I'm excited.
Great.
Sounds good.
So we've got Zephyr and Voxer here, and this time, I think we're looking at your, one of the scenes that we had set up last time, just kind of a landing page scene. This time we want to pick a scene where we can build some teleports. So I think you've got one in mind.
Yeah, so I had a couple picked out that we can use as an example. Would be the first one I thought of.
Great. And just so we can get back to this one easily, can you do me a favor and right click on the scene and do toggle navigation? And what that'll do is that'll peg it up in the top left corner so that we can get back to it again.
Oh, I see. It doesn't close it now because normally it would just close it out.
Exactly.
That's helpful.
Indeed. Okay, so let's inspect the scene here a little bit. Turn on your wall layer. I just want to see if this is walled and everything the way that we would expect. And it looks like it. I can see some walls poking through there.
That's great. Pretty large scene.
It is. Yeah, it's a big one. And I assume that they've got lighting on here as well. If you click on your lighting layer on the left side.
Here, so maybe not. Maybe these are creatures. I think these are hidden creatures right now.
Okay, yeah. So we may or may not want to light this scene at some point, but we won't worry about that today. What we want to do is focus on those staircases. And how do you make it so that your players can just walk onto a staircase and then automatically teleport to the area that they're supposed to go? Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. So what we want to use here is we want to use a module called Monk's Active Tile Effects. What it does is it takes something as simple as a tile that you drag onto your scene, and it makes it really, really smart and able to do a whole bunch of things, like a massive amount of things. And you can link tiles together, and you can really just kind of go way off the deep end with automation. We're going to do something simple and use Monk's active tile triggers today. So go ahead and activate that. That'll activate the module for your world. And in a bit, when we get into automating some interactable effects. Oh, first of all, let's activate that scene that you're on right now. Right now, we're just viewing it, but if you right click it and click activate, it'll make this the primary scene that loads whenever you come into the world.
Ah.
Yeah. Okay. So now whenever we refresh, it'll bring us right back to here. Okay. So now what we want is we want a tile. We can really use any tile. We built some tiles specifically for this. And so I think it'd be easiest just to use one of those. So in your tile picker, which you're on, go to your little folder next to it. And then go into modules down below. And then look for Bailiwick Premium Towns. And then maps. Active tiles at the top. And you see there's a bunch of just tiles that are like symbols of things, right? And what we want to grab is one of these staircases. So let's grab a staircase up tile. And before you drag it in, first of all, I'm looking at this map. Is the grid set up the right way?
It is. It looks like this is a situation where they're using the official artwork. And the official artwork is using 10-foot by 10-foot tiles, but it might not match perfectly.
Got it.
To like a nice even grid size here in Foundry, but it is still lined up properly.
They set it up the right way.
Yep.
Okay, so that should mean, let's see, it's saying 50 is our asset grid size. Let's go ahead and drag one of those staircase symbols out onto the map and see how it looks in terms of size. Let's do a staircase. Yeah. Or pick a staircase up or down.
So would this constitute?
Yeah. So that would be like up, right? And by the way, only the GM's going to see these.
Because I just don't see it down is the only reason
down is like 2 over from that one. To the left.
Oh, here. Oh, okay. All right.
That's the one. Yeah. There you go.
All right. So we'll go up first.
All right.
And you'll notice that that's like 3x3 grid units, right? So when you're specifying your asset grid size, it's going to be based off of the grid size that the asset was created for. If you're using like a photo editor or something like that, you might call that your DPI or pixels per inch. So I think we need to increase the size on our asset grid size, unless we want it to be just a really large tile. Either one.
I'm looking at this spot and thinking this actually might be a good place for a really large tile because it's got kind of a weird entry point.
Yeah, I said that and I realized like, well, I guess that is a large area.
Yeah.
My only question is like, what is it in relationship to like so like an actor and this is pretty.
Okay. Good. All right. So yeah, no, that's fine. So yeah, we can do a smaller tile. So go ahead and go back to your tile layer and select that and delete it. Or actually, I'll show you even how to resize it from here. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, there you go. So if you hold down Alt while you drag that little handle that you've got, it will scale it. If you didn't hold down Alt, it would let you kind of free form resize it. But we'll show you the other way to drag stuff in and have it automatically set to the right dimension. So go ahead and delete this tile. And in your tile picker, change that 50 to 100. I think, except for the dimensions of the scene are set to something weird. We should probably check those first.
Yeah, I think the grid size is 50 because usually the asset grid size that pops up in your tile browser
defaults it.
Defaults to that. It's just slightly off kilter because I think the base artwork isn't something easily divisible by 50.
Right. So we really need something like 75 or something.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like this is still lined up to the grid.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
It's just slightly offset. And that is, when we have that asset grid size set to 150, that looks like that's the same area as a token. So I think we're correct on the grid size here.
Okay, you're right. And when he moves his token onto that spot, it'll fit right into the square like it should. Okay, so picking up from here. Now we've got our staircase going up. Now let's make it actually, let's add another tile to the scene for wherever its destination is as a staircase going down. So let's find on the map where we want our players to go when they step on that tile.
So that would be this location right here on the palace level.
Great. So yeah, there you go. Good. And you can resize that if you want to fill the entire space of that staircase.
I forgot to hold Alt.
There you go. Perfect.
It does seem a bit off. It's almost like I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can see a grid here.
Yeah, and then the grid underneath it.
Yeah, I'm guessing the official artwork has its grid in something that's probably like something that's like 48 pixels would be closer to a standard 5-foot grid size, and that's why we have a slight offset here.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, that's essentially good enough. I mean, you're not going to be able to get to it from through the wall, or if I set up additional walls saying I only want you to approach from here, I don't necessarily care that it's bigger.
Yeah. This is also so close that if it's like bothering to you or your players, you could also lower the opacity of the Foundry grid, and then it's so close that you're not really going to notice that you're not perfectly on one of those tiles, especially since the artwork tiles are 10 foot by 10 foot rather than 5 foot by 5 foot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's let's get into, and everyone's going to run into the problem of having to resize a map, and we should show a tutorial also on how to like get your grid size lined up based on the artwork that you're working with, because there's so much different artwork out there that was done in so many different DPIs that it's probably a worthwhile exercise to go through.
For sure.
That's a fair point.
We could even try it here if we think we're not going to mess this up. Or do you want to?
It's up to you guys. I mean,
all right, let's don't detour. Let's get through our first mission here.
I think we can get through, like this stuff, because this lets me do some things, but if we know how to do that in the future, then I can go do a bunch of that on my own.
Okay, great. All right, so let's go down to that first tile that we laid down, the one that the staircase up. And I want you to double right click it, and that's going to open up its config. Now you've got some tabs here. You can make an overhead tile if there was animation involved. And what we want to focus on is the one that says triggers. This tab was introduced by Monk's active tile triggers module. And you can see that you can set up the tile, and then you can assign a bunch of actions for it to do. And then you can even assign some images in case you want the tile to cycle images and things like that. We're not going to worry about that one for teleporting. Now, what we want to do is we want to first of all make sure our tile is active, which it is. It's checked on. That means that it's hot, right? It's if it had any actions behind it, as soon as somebody triggered it, it would activate. And in this case, who's gonna trigger it? Well, we want to allow all tokens to trigger it, controlled by anyone, and then we want to trigger it. We can make some decisions here. I personally like if you hit that drop down, you can see all these different ways that you can trigger automation. So if if a token enters the tile or if it exits the tile, you can have it do different things. If it enters then exits, so you can make like a pressure plate out of it. If they just move across it, if they change their elevation while they're on top of the tile, all sorts of interesting things. You can even have them be able to hover over it, and it makes it like all of a sudden start to glow.
Oh my gosh.
Really, really crazy stuff here, right? And I recommend anyone who wants to go into these in detail, we have an entire playlist on the Bailey Wiki channel just for Monk's active tile triggers, because this level of automation is really awesome because you don't have to know macros. You don't have to know JavaScript to like automate anything. So let's jump into on stop within tile. That means that when I have a token that stops on that spot, it will trigger whatever this tile is going to do. And you'll notice you can allow this action to happen even if the game is paused. In this case, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that players have to be like, the game's not paused. When you pause the game, it freezes all your players from moving, right? We don't want them to be able to hover over it. If this isn't something they would click to interact with, it's something they would just walk over. Once per token isn't necessary because, we want them to be able to travel back and forth. And we don't need to set any minimum requirements, and our percent chance to trigger should be 100%. Every time somebody steps on that spot, we want it to teleport them. So now let's go to the tab up above that says actions. And go ahead and click add. And then click that drop down that says activate, deactivate. This is a really long list of actions that you can take, and you can link actions together. You can even use logic and like jump to certain parts of the automation based on certain circumstances. It's really, really powerful. What we want to do is a simple one that just says teleport. There you go. And the entity that we want to teleport, you can say current tokens, that would work, but you see that little figure of the person? Yeah. Use the triggering token. That means the token that actually runs across that will be the one that sets it off. And that seems the most appropriate and the most precise for what we want to do. And then we want to give it a place to teleport to. So you see that little crosshairs over on the right? Yep. If you click that, and then you scroll up the scene to the other tile and select it, just like click on it once. You can see it populated the ID of that tile. And what that says is I want my token to teleport to that particular tile. Now, you could have also just picked a coordinate on the map If you didn't select
really?
a tile and you just picked a spot on the map, it would teleport them there. But for now, we'll have them go ahead and teleport between these two tiles. Notice you have some options here. You can snap to grid. I like to use that often. It just makes sure they end up on a grid square. The animate canvas pan, I typically don't use it. What that would do is actually show the player's token sort of running across the scene. And we don't want to do that. We just want them to show up in the new area, right? Delete source token is helpful when you're teleporting between scenes. In this case, we don't have to worry about it. Preserve settings is also helpful if you're teleporting between scenes, because what happens is we're effectively making a copy of our token and putting it elsewhere, and we just want to know what details to bring with it. Again, it doesn't apply here within the scene. And then avoid other tokens at the destination. That can also be helpful if you want to have them sort of spread out when they get there. But because we're dealing with a confined space, I don't really want to do that. I just want to leave them just to, even if they pile up on each other, that's fine. So go ahead and click update. And then click update tile. And that will essentially save that tile.
This tile down.
Yep. And now I want you to test it. Go to your token layer, select that token you've got on the board, and try to walk over that thing. Just like magic. Okay, now we're going to, now we've only built our teleport in one direction, so now let's build it back in the other direction. So now go back to your tile layer and double right click that down stair. Go back to your triggers tab. And now we want to do the same thing we just did, but replicate it for this one. So on your setup, everything should be the same except for the when. The when we wanted to do when stopping within. There you go. And everything else I think we left unchecked. And now click add. And in our drop down of actions, we want to pick the teleport action. You want it to apply to the triggering token. So click that little guy, and then click your coordinates crosshairs. And now pick its twin. There we go. And everything else we left unchecked. Okay, so now click update on that one. And let's test our teleport now working in both directions. Go back to your token layer and see what happens when you walk. There you go.
So good.
Easy, right? This same exact function works between scenes. So you can link many scenes. You can have whole cities that you can explore, which is something that we do in our content. Now, let's dress it up just a little bit, just because we want to be fancy and cool. So go back to your tile layer and double right click that staircase tile. And let's add another action. I'm going to show you how we can just combine actions to make even cooler effects. Now, under your drop down, I want you to find, you're going to have to grab the scroll bar on the right and scroll down just a little bit. There we go. Go to play sound file.
Oh, I was just going to ask, are there like footsteps on stone?
Okay, so watch this. Now click, see that sound file picker button to the right? Click that. And then go up one level. And then go, one more level. And go down to sounds. These are sounds that we already publish within our premium module. Now, I want you in the filter results up above, just type in step. And here's a bunch of different footsteps that we can pick from. I think the one you want, go ahead and pick the steps down. This is an OGG file. It's really small and efficient. Click select file. Now, this is going to happen when somebody walks on the stairs, it'll make a sound. So, but we don't want it to play for maybe everyone. So for the for drop down, just say a triggering player. That way everyone's not hearing everyone else's footsteps, right? We just want our player to hear their footsteps. Great. We can adjust the volume, which we don't really need to do right now. We can do things like loop it. We can fade it out. But I usually check restrict to scene just because I don't want other people in other scenes hearing it. And I usually check prevent sound from starting if already playing, just because I don't want the sound kind of repeating. And then I'll click update.
But that is still just for that player, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Another player triggers it, it will play for them independently.
That's exactly right.
Awesome.
So click update and update tile. Now, actually, you know what? Do this one more thing. I want you to reorder them. So double right click that open again. And you can actually drag these actions around. So drag that sound file action up above. You kind of have to get it just right. Kind of drag it like right on top of the one above it. There you go.
Oh, okay.
So what that's going to do is it's just going to make sure it's looking for that sound file and playing it first. It'll just make for a better experience. The timing will work out. Okay, so now go back to your token layer. And we may not be able to hear this on our audio, but you should be able to hear it when you walk over it. Hey, it works. Nice.
So good.
Right?
So good.
So this is just scratching the power of this. Imagine we could also have a notification show up that says you've reached the library or whatever. You can do all kinds of linked actions as deep as you want. You can get into automation of sort of effects that could happen. We could even have it all of a sudden play a playlist. Like once they get into that room, there's a boss fight and it changes your playlist. We could have it turn the lights down and turn on, thunder and lightning effects. It's entirely up to you how much you want to build into it, but that's just an example. So it's using this same method that you would end up having all of the other staircases linked to each other. Make sense?
Yeah. Now, if I get one of these set up and I like it in terms of now we have this kind of tile set, can I like copy this and then just change the target?
Yes, but
where it goes, that I don't have to do this like all those steps over and over and over
yes,
again.
and I highly recommend you doing that. But we need another module installed, which you might actually have to do it. It's called the tagger module. So go into your modules, your list of modules, and search for tagger. Okay, we don't have it, so we'll have to install that really quick.
Should have done logout.
There we go. What tagger does is normally Foundry assigns a unique code to every entity that gets dropped into a scene, right? Every tile, every wall, it has its own unique identification code. The problem is if you want to reuse things, those codes will change every time you move them to another scene. What tagger does is tagger assigns a fixed tag to all these entities so that you can cut and paste them and they'll continue to work everywhere.
That's handy.
So now I want you to right click, go to your tile layer and double right click into that one of those tiles that you made. And go to your triggers. Here, let's give it a tag. So let's call this one, what's the scene? Grim Skull, Stair 1, something like that. And you can really call it anything, or just call it Stair 1. Oh yeah, if you want to reuse this elsewhere, maybe you want to leave it more generic. And maybe you call it up. Now I want you to grab that whole tag that you made and just hit Control C so we can use that later. And now go ahead and say update tile. Now I want you to go up to the staircase up above, the one we have it linked to, and right click into that. Triggers. Oh, let's give this one its own name. So you can hit Control V and let's call this one Stair 1 down, so that we know this is part of a pair. Okay, now go to triggers. Go to actions. And then open up the edit button for that action there. You can see it put that in. I never trust that. You'll see over on the right, there's introduced a new tag thing. Click on that. And now and then replace that tag name that it's got sitting in there. That's a bunch of gobbledygook. Replace that, Control V, your other tag. There you go. And you don't have to press that little check next to it. That's for another function. And now go ahead and click Save. And what this is now going to do is it's going to teleport you to whatever tile has that tag on it. Make sense? So,
Yes.
so now this will work in other scenes and other places. But you'd have to change. Oh, you know what, Zephyr? Should he be using the wild card?
This might be a bit much, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I think here's like the really simple answer to can use copy and paste that. If you're willing to change the target each time, then it's as simple as keep track of where some of these tiles live at, select it with your tile tool, hit Control C, then hit Control V, move your new tile into the position, edit the actions, pick the new destination. That's super easy. If you want to have a really robust, like literally all you're doing is dragging an actor out from your sidebar and it's ready to go as long as you drag them out in the right pairs, then that's setting up with the wild card. And that's
okay. Well, we don't
very
need to do
powerful
that
for the future.
Yeah.
But I think the copy paste thing gets us where we need to go.
Yeah,
You're right.
I'm never going to like recreate this particular stair set again, right? It's just for this one spot.
Well,
let's go through the basics of of doing the other two stairs. How about that? We'll kind of back up, and let's change that. Let's get rid of that tag that you have applied because I'm sure we're going to confuse people. Yeah, get rid of that and update. Okay, so and then these should all work. Let's just test your teleports to make sure it's working in both directions still. Okay, great. Do you want to apply the steps audio to the other one if we're going to repeat this? Triggers, add an action, play sound file. Modules, towns, bailiwiki maps towns, sounds, and then you can filter for steps. There's a lot of cool sounds in there, by the way, you can use for a ton of things. And go steps down. And play for just the triggering player instead of everyone. And it's probably good enough. Okay. Now let's copy. Perfect. Let's copy that one of those stairs. So go to that and just hit Control C after you have it selected. All right. Now let's find another stair down that we want to drop that into somewhere on the map. There we go. Go ahead and drag that into the spot. Okay. Now let's go make its twin first before we link them together. So grab the stair up that you've already created. Okay, there you go. Let's make it sure it's sitting in one square perfectly. There we go. That's good. And yeah, and putting it close to the wall, that's a good idea. All right, now we can link these together. So go ahead and double click that. Double right click, I think technically is what it is. Go to triggers. Now, in this case, we only have to worry about the actions. We only have to set the destination because everything else is the way we want it. So go ahead to edit the teleport destination. Grab your crosshairs and pick its twin that you want it to go to. There you go. and then just do the same thing for its twin. Okay, let's test this new pair out. Oh, do me a favor and right-click that. I want to make sure these are hidden to your players. So just right-click one of these stair tiles, and let's just make sure it's set to hide. Just single right-click it.
Yep. So it's that masked man kind of icon. When you right-click it, now that you have it selected.
Oh, I have to click.
Sorry. Left click to select it, and then right click, and then you can get that context menu. And then if there's an orange outline around that toggle visibility state, that means it's hidden. You'll notice it's got a slightly lower opacity. So it's the hidden state, which means that only GMs can see it.
Right. If you're used to Roll20, you have a GM layer that's just stuff the GMs can look at. In this, there's no GM layer. You can just choose to hide anything from your players as a GM. So there you go. And you'll want to hide the other tiles just like it so that those are invisible. That way the players are just seeing the artwork. They feel like they're interacting with the map underneath it. And when you're ready, let's test our new staircase pair. This same method works cutting and pasting between scenes.
Oh,
there you go.
Perfect.
Love it. Now, what happens when you're actually playing this map and your players have, successfully defeated, some enemies in a skirmish, and they go running around the map in uncontrolled ways? Let's talk about how to control that. So go to your tile layer again. And now right click that so you can get the HUD opened up on it, or click and then right click. And you see how there's a little glowing man at the bottom right? That is showing you that this tile is active. It's hot. If you turn that off, you've disabled the automation for this tile. And that's how you can control, just one of many ways you can control player movement on the scene. So, they're done with their battle. They're running around trying to go up the staircase, and you're not ready for them to do that yet. When you're ready, you just, activate that tile, and now it's hot.
Yes, that is perfect.
There you go.
So good.
Love it. All right, so that is basics. There's actually multiple ways to do teleporting. There's other modules that will do it. There's a module called Staircase, I believe. There's a multi-level token module. This is the one that we use because it's so powerful and it can do so many things that it's sort of like kind of replaced a bunch of modules that we used to use.
Hey everyone, this is Zephyr. We hope that you have enjoyed this recording session with Vox so far. We're actually going to go ahead and split this session into 2 parts. So we will be back with Vox and Monk's active tile triggers next time, where we're making some automatic traps for him, and you're really going to want to see that. There's some great reactions and some really cool features that you will love. As always, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to keep up with all of our latest content. And consider becoming a patron. Not only do you support the channel, but you can also sign up for our Foundry Mastery tiers to get coaching just like Vox is here. Once again, this has been Zephyr. Thank you so much for watching, happy gaming, and have a good one.